Oh,
It
young
can
rye, huh?
young rye, so
Really?
2-year-old rye can be really fantastic.
Is it
Two,
really lively? Is
yeah,
what's?
exactly. It can be very lively. You can feel it all over your palate. The spice will be there.
The Fred Minnick Show is brought to you by 291 Colorado Whiskey, by Michter's, by Heaven Hill Brands, and DraftKings. Enter Fred at DraftKings.com for a chance at millions of dollars in prizes with first deposit.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Fred Minnick Show. So glad to have you here listening. Thank you for downloading. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for pressing play. Folks, we are on a mission here with this podcast. I want everybody to have one of these stickers. It's the Fred Minnick Show sticker. Just put it on your laptop or your car, your backpack, whatever you do with stickers. Just please don't use them in criminal activity. As I've mentioned many times before, I don't need the cops calling me asking me why somebody holding my sticker is robbing a bank. All you got to do is hit me up on fredminnick.com. That's fredminnick.com. Click the contact button and type that you want a sticker and send me your address, and I'll be happy to send you one with a handwritten note. And believe me, I've sent some doozies. There's one fella who had the same name as somebody I went to high school with. I was like, hey, what's going on, Kevin? Long time no see. Is it? Oh, by the way, is this the same one I went to high school with? So, yeah, I send some really ridiculously dumb things. But hey, that's what I do. This week's guest is very special. Now, over the years, I've interviewed a lot of musicians who have gotten into the spirits game. Like, so they started a spirit or something. But I've never interviewed a very popular musician with a story quite like this. Now, Billy Gould's famously known for being with, Faith No More. He's the bassist for Faith No More. Iconic alternative rock band. Just iconic. And that's a band that will stand the test of time. I love Faith No More. I mean, who doesn't? Incredible band. And, Bill or Billy, he is a huge Rakija fan. Now, we're talking about Serbian Brandy. Now, usually when a musician is starting a brand, they are starting a vodka or a bourbon or something that's like really popular and something that there would be instant demand for. I can tell you right now, there is little to no demand for Serbian Brandy outside of places like Slovenia and Croatia. And he started this brand right here, and he tells us the story about Yebiga and why it's important to him and the things that the reason why he started it and some of the struggles that he's actually having in the spirits industry. So if you are a general fan of spirits or you like learning about the spirits business, you're really going to get a great education here in this episode. But if you're a fan of Faith No More, you're going to get to see a side of Bill Gould that you've never seen before. He's a really great dude. And I'm telling you, I could sip Rakija with him all day long, or whiskey or whatever. Now, we also end up tasting some rye whiskeys, and he did pick a favorite. He did pick a favorite out of the three we tasted. So enjoy this episode. And I have to tell you that this episode is brought to you by DraftKings. You know I'm a big fan of the NFL. You know I've been on DraftKings, and you can join me there too. Go to DraftKings.com, enter Fred in the checkout for a chance to win millions of dollars in prizes. Now, it's simple. You just pick your lineup, you stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code FRED. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code FRED to get a free shot at millions of dollars in prizes with your first deposit. That's code FRED only at DraftKings.com, the official fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for official details. One more thing. Now, this interview takes place a month ago. So this was prior to a September 14th announcement from Faith No More that they are canceling their tour, citing mental health reasons. Now, listen, Mike Patton is an icon in rock, especially alternative rock, and my heart goes out to you, Mike. Someone who's battled PTSD over the years. You know, people who have not battled these issues before don't understand the kind of stress that can come on you from something like the pandemic or a tour. So I am 100% certain that we will see you back on stage when you are ready and you take care of yourself. But I wanted to tell everybody that this interview takes place before Faith No More cancels their tour, and Billy and I actually do talk about their tour when, in fact, now we know that the tour is not happening. But the enthusiasm, the sound of Billy's voice was so energetic and everything, I thought it was just too important to cut that out. So let's enjoy this week's interview with the great Billy Gould of Faith No More. Cheers. And now joining the Fred Minnick Show, Bill Gould from Faith No More. How you doing, sir? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, Fred. Good to see you too.
So, you know, Faith No More is like one of these like iconic bands. You know, you've been around for forever. You headline shows forever, and you've got so many hits. But you all have like a cult following. That's kind of transcend. You know, it goes through like all the decades. You know, and I got to imagine that's not an easy thing to do, you know, especially with how music has changed. And I like just kind of jumping right in and asking like a fun question. But how has Faith No More been able to retain such a fan base, you know, through different lead singers and through different generations? Because it really is amazing to see your fans.
You know, I think the thing is that we made a lot of decisions probably over time where there's always a point like you do this, it's going to work. But if you do this, it might work, it might not work. But you're kind of going with your gut. We did a lot of things with our gut that even didn't work at the time. But I think we got a lot of respect from our fans for the fact that we were kind of like really following something that was like a musical path and not just thinking of what the career move was. And we also took a beating for it and we kept doing it. And so I don't know, you can't really say what a Faith No More fan is, but I think that there is a certain respect that we have for kind of what we do and what the fans have for us, and that if we take a chance on something, we're probably into it. And I think that's kind of how we survive and how people still want to care about what we do now.
Sure. Is there, and you know, you have a song Epic that kind of like, you know, it gets played all the time on playlists and movies and things like that. So it doesn't hurt to have a top 10, you know, hit like that. But that's like, to me, that's not even like Faith No More music. It's a hit that that resonated with a lot of people. But what's an example of something that you said you got dinged on, or you didn't do right, or whatever, and you felt the concept? What's an example of that?
I mean, you know, we went through it. We had a different singer before, and just losing our first singer. I mean, people were like, "Why are you doing that? That's a completely wrong way to go." Usually, he's you know, the focal piece of the band. You know, we put out the Real Thing record, and we toured it for about a year and a half. It went platinum, and we did Angel Dust, which was a left turn, and everybody who was working with us, like at say up in the record company and all that, were like, "Oh, you guys, why are you blowing it like this?" Then we did King for a Day, which was the same thing. It was very different than the album before that. Every record of ours is a little bit different in that it's not kind of following a formula per se. We have this chemistry, but you know, we did get dinged on each of those steps we've done. But I also think that because we were so tight with each other, it didn't hurt that bad. And we came out of it. So
And you mentioned Chuck.
Yeah.
And I know he passed away a
Right.
few years ago. Did you all remain close?
We did. I mean, that was tough because, well, Chuck and I go back from probably, I met him when I was about 13 or 14 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
I was in my first band with him, and he was like my big brother. So, we went through a lot of changes. By the time we separated, we kind of worn out the friendship part of it. Roddy stayed a little connected, but the past 10 years before Chuck died, we kind of reconnected, and we got to do some shows with him at the end, which I thought were really great. I know they meant a lot to him, but it was also really good for us to kind of go back to a kind of a closer relationship that we had in the very beginning.
Oh, that's awesome. Of course, Faith No More is headlining the Aftershock Festival in Sacramento, California, coming up this fall. And it's pretty cool because that's being presented by Jack Daniels, that Tuesday segment. So I always like it when I see a whiskey connected to a show. So it's good to see you all headlining that in Sacramento. That's coming up. And, of course, your tour dates are on your website, and you all are staying busy. There's been a lot of musicians pull out because of COVID, cancel their tours, and you all are keeping going.
We're going to do it. This data changes every day. When we booked this tour, we kind of were feeling like we were coming out of the worst of it, and then it kind of flared up again. But we're going to do it. And we're just going to, I kind of see it like a little bit like, it's a rock and roll adventure in a way I would have never anticipated. But, music is dangerous again.
Yeah. Well,
right.
It is. And there's, I like seeing the bands of my youth getting the attention from the youth today. So, and that's definitely the case with Faith No More. And I was fascinated with a random PR pitch I got out of nowhere from someone I worked with on a different project, pitching me about Serbian Brandy. I have been a spirits writer for 15 years, and I have never been pitched about Serbian Brandy. And so automatically, I'm like fascinated and interested in this because I love anybody who's making brand. I love brandies and the culture of brandy and everything. And then when she said it was your brand and you were attached to it, I was like, this is awesome. But you now you got to tell me, and the brand is I'm going to.
It's called Yebiga.
Yebiga. I would have got that right. And then it's so what? Tell us about the brand and what does Yebiga mean?
The brand started because I've been going to Serbia and Balkans in general because Rakija is something that they drink all over the Balkans, from Slovenia to Bulgaria and everywhere in between. People like you did not know about Rakija, and I've been going back for it. And when you go to Serbia or a place like Croatia, the family brings out the Rakija. It's a very special thing. It's an iconic thing it's part of the household. And I became attached to it just by going there a lot and realizing that not only could I really not find the kind of stuff here that I wanted to get, but there wasn't a lot of awareness about it. People didn't really know about it. And somehow it's kind of a spirit that kind of never really made it over the net. And I didn't see anybody doing it. And I kind of felt like I know some people out there who really know how to do it right, who are part of the culture, and I could actually introduce a version of it that stand up for the category.
And where do they get their plums? Do they grow them there?
They absolutely grow them there. The thing about Rakija and this kind of brandy in general is just about every family in the Balkans makes Rakija, or their grandfather makes it from the fruit from their yard. It's kind of a very utilitarian thing. They've been doing it for about 800 years. They disinfect the house with it. They can even put it in the tractor if they run out of gas. There's a lot of functional uses about Rakija. It also, keeps you warm in winter. It helps you socialize. And, you know, you can also trade rakia for other people's products, vegetables, whatever. So it's a big part of life. This rakia that I make with mine comes from a family farm, and the grandmother who's now dead was born on this farm around 1900. So it goes back. These plums come from this farm, and these plums are very particular plums. I mean, when you start talking about things like brandies, eau de vies, terroir starts taking an important role, because what you're trying to do is try to translate from the fruit to the bottle. You don't want to stand in the way of the actual fruit. And depending on where the fruit is grown, it can have its own personality. And this fruit has a certain personality from the center of middle of Serbia. It's grown on a little farm up on a dirt road in the middle of the hills. About as rustic as it gets.
Wow. And who is the lady on here? Is that the grandmother? The photo on the bottle?
She's not the grandmother, but she is a Balkan grandmother. She is like everybody's Balkan grandmother. This particular woman was from an area of Croatia called Slavonia, and she made rakia until she was 98 years old. And the cool thing about her was she really believed in a pure, natural approach to rakia. It's like fruit, water, nothing else. And fruit from, you know, the fruit. You source the fruit yourself. You pick the plums by hand. And so she's kind of a patron saint, actually, for what I'm trying to do.
Wow. And in the creation of it, this is all pot stills.
Pot stills.
No column stills there. Is it? Are there any like? Is there any sugar or anything like that added to this?
No sugar. Absolutely nothing. Plums and water, and the mountain water, basically right out of a well. There is a column still that is used to a very small degree, and that's because it makes we have a problem with plums in particular. These plums is the pectin produces a methanol level that if you keep it a natural product, it's a little difficult to get through the U.S. standard. So there's a little bit of column still action to kind of keep just the keep it distillate, but keep it natural,
in other words, Americans aren't quite as don't quite have the stamina the Serbians do for a good Serbian plum brandy. I like it. Well, let's start with the unaged down to. Is there any kind of filtration or anything that goes with it?
There is filtration, and it's cold stabilized.
Okay.
But basically, no. This is it takes about 6 months just to sit in stainless steel, just to kind of stop being so angry. But this would be a rakia that would be that you would have around the farm for daily use, and made. I mean, let's see. It's really kind of tough.
That smells. That's very bright.
It's about an alcohol level about 40%. What's really important, like I was saying back about fruit again, was that the fruit itself is super important, where it comes from and when you pick it. And so these trees, these plums are only picked by hand at like maximum technical ripeness, which means you could be revisiting the same tree like 5 times before you get all the plums out of them, because they kind of all ripen at different times. And so what goes into this is actually from plums that are ripe at the right time.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, from a smelling perspective, it reminds me of grape juice. Like after it, kind of like some of the alcohol notes, it's just kind of, it's a really, really nice kind of sweet. It smells very sweet. Definitely kind of in that eau de vie conversation. This is fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic if you're like an eau de vie fan. I would love to taste these plums. So do these plums taste similar to something that you would get in a grocery store?
No, they're actually they're different, and they look different. They're bright blue. They're these Serbian plums. There's about 5 of them that they use for rakia. They distill really well. They also use, I think what we get here, the Stanley plums. They use those too. It's not the same. It's just something very distinctive about Serbian plums.
Yeah, and I've had plum brandy from some of the Asian countries, from a couple African countries before. This is definitely
interesting.
This is definitely outside of the flavor profile of plum brandies I've had in the past, because they tend to lacerate them with secondary sugaring and so forth.
Right.
But that is a really nice one. What's the price point on that?
This is about $29.99 in the store.
I mean, that'd be great. That'd be great at a really nice craft cocktail bar.
That's the good thing about this. Yeah, you can mix that one, because it's really, there's not much to get in the way that you're going to destroy. And even though it is sweet, like you smell the sweetness, it's still kind of a dry drink.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this would make a really good, I think it would go really great with vermouth. Like I want to make I hate vodka. I'm sure you know that about me, but I love martinis with gin. So I love a gin martini, and I think this would make a very elegant martini style. Awesome. So tell me what's the age on this? Like, how long is it aged?
Well, the minimum age is 18 months.
Is that a legal requirement?
I think it's like it is here. I think that the youngest distillate is the age.
Okay. So, but you're not required to age it for at least 18 months. You can
No, these can get aged up to 20 years, but I couldn't have brought that a 20-year rakia here. It wouldn't have made any sense to do, because it would just be gone, and that would be the end of the story.
So are there 20-year-old rakias out there that we can just go knocking on a door and get them out of someone's home?
That's the only way to get them, because the people with these rakias don't sell them generally. They're family heirlooms, and it's tough. It's tough for people who live here, who grew up there, who want that because they grew up with it. And this is kind of my way of kind of bringing some of that here.
Yeah, this is so different in a good way. I mean, yeah, this is excellent.
This is all I drink.
Really?
I love it.
You don't drink anything else?
No, this is rakia is kind of my thing.
So that's you obviously. That's why you started a brand. You're just basically finding a business investment for your own hobby. I love it.
Yeah, in a way. It's really funny. I mean, I've had friends like band musicians who've gone touring there, and I've just said, like, help bring back a rakia for me, please. Because it's the only way to get it is to bring it back on a plane. And I had a friend of mine. There's a bar in my neighborhood in San Francisco where I live, across the street, and I said, meet me in this bar and we'll do the handoff. And he was there. He handed it to me. His bottle slipped out of my hands and broke on the floor.
Oh, man.
And I'm just like, I cannot tell you, I waited 6 months for that bottle, and it's just like, yeah, I need to do this for myself. This is what I like to drink.
How much of, so you obviously, there are few businesses as archaic as the music industry, with all the hurdles and everything that you have to go through, and the amount of lawyers you have to use to have one deal, it's absurd.
Right.
But the alcohol industry is not far off from its absurdities for the amount of regulations and ridiculous things you have to do. From a business perspective, how similar was getting into the alcohol game to music?
I see a lot of similarities. It's funny, there is a steep learning curve in just, I've got this thing that nobody knows what the hell it is, and how am I going to get anybody to care about it, right?
I mean, again, Bill,
do I have to learn,
Bill, the very first pitch I've had on this in my entire career was on this bottle, and I've been doing this for 15 years. I've written about Baju. I wrote a book on mead. I've written a book on rum. Several books on whiskeys, and like usually there will be an importer who has a one-off, or there will be someone talking about this little special thing that they have that's made from distilled roots and grease or something. There's always something like this. Has never come up in my world, and I'm a judge in like all the competitions too, and I've never seen it. So it's
crazy.
It is fascinating.
This is why it had to be done. It really had to be done. It's a shame to think that there's stuff like this out there that isn't just getting here.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing, and there's a vibe. I mean, you just tasting this. I mean, you know that it's different, but there's a certain feeling with Rakija that I get. I'm being a little subjective, but I've heard it from other people too. There's a certain mental state that you get into if you're drinking, a Scotch, or you're drinking a Rakija, or you're drinking tequila, and this kind of has its own personality. I just kind of feel like it should be an option,
Right. Now, are there other brands that are being imported here?
There are. I would say that Slivovitz. This is basically a Slivovitz. But what you get are things that they're not made like this one. You can get Slivovitz that was made in a nice distillery that you can buy in a store, and it's got a good price point. But it's not what I kind of feel is like the heart of the Balkans, which is a family Rakija that you have at a wedding or a funeral, really special things with people that you care about. That was the thing I couldn't get, and this is what I think is different. And what makes it different is kind of the process. It's just so rustic. It's so traditional. We were like strictly traditional, and that's kind of the whole point, actually, because this is when you look at the essence of what a Rakija is. That's kind of what I was shooting for.
Well, everybody listening or watching here, the brand is called Yebiga Rakija, and then there's PRVA in quotations on this. Like, what does that mean?
So Perva means the first. And it was because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, here's the first shot, So
got it.
That came first.
I love it. Well, I mean, everyone, if I could do my best job to describe this for you, it is like if you love spirits, if you like seeing how things feel on your palate, this is going to be tracking in the way a lot of young brandies do, but not like not a great brandy, but I would say this is probably closer to a pear or an apple brandy or an applejack without any of the kind of dosage to it. This really does have a place, I think, on people's bars. And I'll tell you, Bill, I tasted it with Bill Thomas, who's the owner of Jack Rose, the world's largest whiskey bar, because he is an enormous Faith No More fan. Like he watched them play in D.C. and smoked a cigarette or something with Chuck. I don't remember the story, and I'll butcher it, but he tasted this and he was really surprised by it. But
That's cool.
This is really good stuff. It's something interesting. It's very interesting, and I think everybody should get it. But we'll
cheers.
We're going to move on to some whiskey now, but definitely
right.
Cheers. Now, you said this is all you drink, but are you okay going to whiskey?
I am. I'm not experienced with whiskey. I have a neighbor who's really into whiskey, and he's kind of turned me on to some things, but I can't say that I'm really a knowledge head on whiskey.
Well,
so
but
you have to guide me through this a little.
Yeah, you have a great understanding of spirits, and I think that's a good step. This is an all rye whiskey taste off here.
Okay.
We have Emerald, basically Redwood Empire Emerald Giant. Mm-hmm. This is a 3-year-old coming out. It's distilled in Indiana and bottled in Sonoma. We have a Whistlepig. This is their Boss Hog edition, and the age on this one I don't know what the age on this one is, but
It says 17 years on my bottle.
Okay, so this is the 17-year-old one. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so 17 years old on that guy. And then we have the 10-year-old Michter's Rye. This one just came out, and all three of these are really, really sought after, really beloved. The Emerald Rye is probably the one that's not on a lot of people's radars, but it's pretty good. So let's go ahead and start with that.
Alrighty.
Now, Rye used to be, this was, before bourbon, rye was really what American distillers made, because the English did not want distillers making anything out of corn. They wanted corn to be used for feeding livestock and, of course, humans. And when we became our own country, people started distilling corn, and eventually they would move away from rye. But rye would be a stronghold in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New York. After Prohibition, they kind of died out, and rye was basically gone and only distilled, but like maybe once a month at like these Kentucky distilleries. And now there's been a resurgence, and so there's a lot of really great rye stocks coming on the market of late. And to be rye, if it's made in the United States, it has to be at least 51% rye of the grain. There's different terms and definitions across the world, so rye whiskey can be made anywhere in the world. And in fact, it's mostly known, in Canada. In Canada, they will make rye that is absolutely fantastic. So here we are with the Redwood Empire, 3 years old. Quite a bit different than what we just sipped.
Wow. Now, is there a rule of thumb with aging? With bourbons where you want to hold it in your mouth for a certain amount of time per year in the barrel, or?
So there's some sweet spots in aging whiskey. You start to see a lot of the life around 3 years old, which this is an amazing pour for a 3-year-old. It says aged at least 3 years old. They could have other stocks in there, but kind of like you were saying, like with the 18th-month-old, if you're going to do an age statement, you have to have the youngest barrel of the batch in there.
Right.
And this is very velvety. It's very rich.
It is.
There's some cinnamon in there. There's some rye bread, but I get a cinnamon toast crunch. You know that cereal?
Yeah.
I really like that.
It's got a really nice finish to it.
Yeah. But aging rye whiskey, young rye can taste great.
Rye, huh?
Young rye, so
really?
2-year-old rye can be really fantastic.
Is it really lively?
Exactly. It can be very lively. You can feel it all over your palate. The spice will be there. The time frame of 3 to 5 years old, it's a little deeper in the wood, and it's changing up a little bit. And then when you get to like 8 years old, that the vibrancy is caressed all around the barrel, and then you're starting to see like a lot more buttery mouthfeel come out of it. But rye ages differently than bourbon, in my opinion.
Interesting.
And it's, I think what we have here, what Redwood Empire did with this release, they absolutely hit a home run, because this is tasting far above its 3-year-old age statement.
Very interesting. It's really, really, really nice.
All right, so I like doing this from time to time. You're tasting Redwood Empire. Let me see if there's a batch number here. All right, I don't have a batch number on it, but what you just tasted, is there a Faith No More song that it reminds you of?
Let me need another taste to think about that. Hang on. Huh. I would go for something older. I would say, boy, you know, it's funny. So Faith No More songs that end up recorded are not Faith No More songs that started when they were first written. And so this actually reminds me of the song that we did on an album called Introduce Yourself, called Ann Song. But it isn't the Ann Song that you end up hearing recorded. It's the Ann Song that was the demo that we did, where I really how I wanted it to sound in the original part of it. It was a lot more sumptuous than it came out. It came out very angular and very clear, but there's something about this. There's a certain kind of I don't want to say soft is the quality, but lush quality that it didn't make it in the song in the recording, but that's what I wanted. So I would say it reminds me of that.
Does that happen a lot? Like, because you're a producer and you get your way a lot in those rooms, and if there's a sound that doesn't make the cutting board, I gotta imagine that doesn't happen very often.
Sometimes you have to see where a song takes you as well. Sometimes you kind of have to see where it's taking you, and you have to kind of get your own step out of the way a little bit and let it be what it wants to be. And it's kind of like having a child having a song, and that, you know, it kind of is going to have its own life, and it's going to kind of be what it is. And the more you try to make it into something else, you can create a lot of grief for yourself, a lot of frustration.
Well, so I got to imagine too, you also can just boycott a show one night and say, you know what, I'm not playing bass tonight. You know, do it my way or no bass. You know, imagine that.
Well, not really. But you know, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's like people. I'm doing a website right now. You know, it's like, you want something to be some way, but if it's not happening, how much work is it going to take? Where are you going to go till it gets there? And how much? Everything is always a result of a certain amount of compromise at the end, and what you can live with and what it ended up being. And that song's like that. And I don't know. I kind of seeing that with my limited world of spirits. It's like with fruit, especially. It's like, what does it want to be? What is it? It's not all about me. I just want to give it a chance. I just don't want to interfere with it too much.
Yeah. Well, I think that's well said.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, by now, you all know your sound. You know what you want to do for the most part, and
yeah, but we don't really think about it. It's like a fingerprint. We kind of have this thing that's ours, and we don't really say, "I want our sound to sound like this. This is going to be angry." This one, like, it's more like we have. It's just kind of how it all cooks together, like gumbo, and there's a lot of that. You kind of have to leave a little bit up to the universe too.
Yeah, sure. Well, now we're going to go to Boss Hog.
Okay.
So this is
17 years.
This is finished in. This is 17 years old. This is distilled in Canada, and it's finished in Spanish oak and South American teak wood. Of course, teak is very popular in
finished in teak wood.
Yeah, it's very popular in the furniture world.
So, is it just very dense wood where you don't get a lot of evaporation and not a lot of influence on the barrel? Or?
So some of those. So this would have been like in an American oak at first, and then they put them in these other barrels for short periods of time. It's a very popular thing to do in American whiskey, as well as Scotch and Irish whiskey. But this is a.
Whoa.
This is,
wow.
when you see those other types of woods, there definitely is a different evaporation, very, very different amount of like tannins that come through.
This is really interesting. Very lively too.
I mean, it's like somebody put a cinnamon stick in there for me.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable with that cinnamon note.
I mean, with a bourbon, like when you have something that's 17 years, is it unusual to have something this alive after this much time? Because I know, like, with Rakija, I found there's a critical period of about maybe 12 to 15 years where you're almost getting more barrel than than distilled.
Yeah, we would say that's over oaked.
Right.
And what they did here is they introduced the whiskey to 2 different types of wood that people don't normally see.
Got it.
So that means they had custom barrels done, and frankly, I've just never tasted anything quite as it's like a cinnamon toothpick, it's so you can taste the wood, but the wood is hard to taste, like, over the incredible amounts of cinnamon. I mean, there's definitely an occasion for it.
Wow. Like a breath mint almost. Very, very intense. I really like it, actually.
Yeah.
It wakes me up.
Yeah, it could be a breakfast drink, How do
Chris put in some eggnog?
It's some eggnog. How do they drink in Serbia? Do they drink in the morning? Do they drink during the day, or just in the evening, or how do they normally drink this?
Everybody, well, I can say everybody, older generation has a shot of rakia in the morning at breakfast. It's kind of like the way to start the day and kind of clear yourself out. People do it like the work in the fields. They'll drink rakia and then work in the fields. Like, you hear these fantastical things, like people saying, like, "Oh yeah, I just drink rakia and I don't need water for the whole day." It's everywhere. And then they have it for dinner, and then they're rubbing the kids' teeth with it, and it's just everywhere. But older people, you will see in Serbia an old woman like the woman on our bottle, and you interview her, and she would say, "What did you do with your long life and your good health?" And she would say, like, I had 2 shots of rakia every day for my whole life, and that's why I lived as long as I did. So it's very much, it's okay to do in the morning. It's not a stigma, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, like in our country, people just can't have one. They flip up the entire bottle in a parking lot before they go to work.
There's a little bit of a different, that's a cultural difference there. And I would say, like with rakia, you don't just slam it, Mm-hmm. You kind of have conversations with it. It's kind of a conversation enhancer.
Yeah, kind of like what we're doing here.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I love this next one we're going to, the Michters, the Michter's 10-year-old.
Got it.
This is one of my favorite ryes year in, year out when it comes out. I was so excited when I got this bottle because I got it in time to send to you.
Ooh, wow.
Send you a taste.
This has almost got some fruit in it in the smell.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's funny. I've had rakia in Serbia that it could almost be similar to this in the nose. Wow.
This is really got some life to it.
Okay, this is a great, great, great drink. I love this. This is great.
Home.
This is fantastic.
Run. Wow.
It's hard to believe it's 92 proof, because I feel like I could this would be no problem to drink over the course of an afternoon. This is fantastic.
Yeah, this is definitely sipping. This is sipping whiskey right here.
Wow. Great stuff.
All right, what song does this remind you of?
Ooh, good. Okay. There's a lot of substance to this one. And there's a lot of elegance to it. I would say something with some meat, something with some bottom end. I would say, boy, all these records, these songs, a little bit lush. Separation anxiety on our last record. That's what I would compare this to. It's very robust. It's very structured, very elegant, very stable. What's the word? Potential. It's very. It's got a lot of fortitude. I dig it.
It's quite good.
I really dig it.
It's almost like it's like a buttery, kind of mouthfeel. One of the unfortunate things about this company is that they don't disclose their mash bills, so I can't tell you like how much rye's in here, but I have a pretty good educational guess that they're on the lower side of rye. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of sweetness in here. There's some bourbon kind of mouthfeel-y components. But this is one of the best ryes I have tasted all year. It's fantastic.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. There's something really amazing about this one.
And just think about how different the three ryes that we have tasted are.
Totally.
Isn't it incredible how different they are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really different.
So I didn't ask you what song the Whistlepig reminded you of. So I'll go back to that. With the Boss Hog?
I'm gonna have to go back to the Whistlepig then.
Yeah, the cinnamon the cinnamon oak one.
Oh, the cinnamon oak. Yes.
And as you do that, I kind of want to get your feel for like you all were very early on with this ability to kind of mix genres and then kind of be a standout in the alternative. And I was wondering, you see it so much now. Like, what do you think of when you see like a country artist collaborate with like Pitbull, or a heavy metal artist, collaborate with like Run the Jewels? There seems to be a lot of really cool crossover collaborations, and you all were so, in terms of the history and importance of getting to where we are today, you all are so important to that. And I was just curious what you think about where we are.
I mean, I think it's great to see these really oddball things coming together. I mean, the biggest problem I had growing up with music was I kind of felt like I lived in a bit of a monoculture. Like, things tend to sing the same. And I understand when you have an economy this big and you're trying to distribute goods and services, keeping things standardized makes things move in big quantities. Like, I get the concept, but as a music fan, I very rarely got surprised, And these oddball things, I think, to me, are the things that bring new ideas. Things that you wouldn't think would fit together, and mixing them together, that's where the magic is to me. Yeah.
What's a sound you would like to hear today?
A sound. Yeah, what am I missing? I'm missing a little bit of like really just animal spontaneity. I'm kind of showing my age because I grew up, in the 80s, going to shows and stuff like that. When there was the punk rock was alive and well. There's like Black Flag was touring, and there was a certain animalistic thing that was part of being part of the live event. That
do you mean like Ozzy with an actual bat on stage, or little?
No,
less?
that I was never into that. I mean like full on sweaty physical contact, And I feel like people make a lot of lip service to this, like being authentic and being real, but I'm not really feeling that. I'm not feeling this kind of like courageousness of somebody just doing something that might not even connect with people, but doing it completely fearlessly.
Yeah, there's a kid. One of the shows I was a part of. This kid just started climbing, and he climbed up all the way on top of the stage and was singing. And I was like, this dude's going to drop dead. It was a band called Joyous Wolf.
Okay.
And I mean, he was doing all that, and I think his entire he's really talented. Their guitarist was on an Apple commercial, and they're in that circle of like young bands people like in the rock world, and like his camp is like, dude, you're gonna fall down, and it's like everybody's like watching him thinking like he's gonna fall, but there's got to be like a happy medium for like safety and
for sure
just doing crazy shit,
There is, and we're living in a world that's very litigious, and it isn't like it was when we probably grew up, when kids rode around on motorcycles without helmets and did all these stupid things that most of us survived. But
Right.
you know, so that's why I think I show my age a little bit. But there is a certain animal thing where there's risk and there's a little danger that kind of, to me, it kind of gets my juices going a little too. I mean, when you're talking about a creative, expressive thing like music, you don't want to have a lot of self-censorship. You know, there's got to be a bit of a go for it thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, and it's like, yeah, music too is like it gotta, you know, the artists have full control, and then, you know, there's so many like independent artists too that get discovered on things like TikTok and YouTube, and it's just there's also just so much, and it's hard.
There is a lot.
And it's also hard to tell from like just a consumer of like who is genuine, you know?
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's very hard to tell. People can approximate genuineness very well now.
Yeah.
And it's very hard not to be just a cynical bastard and just hate everything, because it would be very easy to do that. And I catch myself all the time trying to be less curmudgeonly, because, you know, if there is a good one, you know, why bash the good guys who are actually doing something and really care about it just by writing everything up? It's just very easy to do. And you're right.
I agree, and I think we need more curmudgeons, actually. I think we need people who, you know, say no to dumb ideas, you know, but...
Well, you know, it's interesting what I thought, and one thing I really liked about your book, reading it, was when you're talking about the stories, you know. And when I decided to get in this Rocky thing, everybody's talking about this. You need a story, you know. Story is everything. And all these stories, I'm hearing a lot of stories that are a lot of bullshit stories, you know. I mean, it's funny. And in music, it's very similar. You know, we're living in a society now where it's kind of like, as long as it looks like it could be okay, it's okay. I'm not sure I'm completely cool with that.
Yeah. And then there's the other side where there's the reactive side where someone does something that is genuine and it rubs someone the wrong way, and then, you know, people come after them. And
absolutely. That's a very powerful and very inhibiting thing. Absolutely. And we didn't have that either.
But I also think, and I know it gets tagged as like the woke culture and everything, but I also feel like, you know, some of that is necessary, because we've had so many assholes in this world doing so many shitty things for far too long.
I know.
And it's almost like a reaction to that, and it just may we live in interesting times, Bill. You know.
We do, and they're going to get more interesting. There's no doubt.
I agree. But you know, on that.
What I do see is, though, and living in San Francisco, it's a fairly, you know, it's pretty liberal actually.
I had no idea.
But you know, there's a lot of things that even when you think that you're thinking for yourself, you're not. You know, when you follow a certain line of thinking. I think the big danger really is this automatic unconscious thinking that influences us, and being very aware. I just know myself, like, you know, when I first got our load into Oakland of this Purva stuff, you know, and I'm like, I was so excited, like, I'm going to go to this store because these guys just do boutique artisanal spirits, and I'm going to blow them away. And they were just like, they were not into it. And that's okay. But I'm also thinking, like, you are the guys that are supposed to be the ones that are thinking outside all the time, you know?
Right.
And we have to really be aware, like, not to get too proud of ourselves, because how well we can think of how enlightened we are, and how, you know, how woke we are, and keep patting ourselves on the back, because we are always missing opportunities and information all the time. And it's really important to be aware of that, I think.
Well, I will tell you this. You'll be getting my, like, odd stamp of approval on it. I mean, I'm actually very fascinated by this, as well as, like, you know, the story and how you came about to it, which is genuine. And you know, I'm I call it like I see it. And this stuff is really good, and I think it's got a place in in a spirit lover's bar, and I applaud you for it. I really do, because this is the kind of risk where you can lose a lot of money. You know, this is not this is not a genre where
that is the truth.
You know,
that is the truth. It's
this is not a
shit.
genre that's going to save you with name. You know, you're in trouble.
We talk about this is like music. I'll tell you where it's not like music is, you know, when you bring stuff in, the size of the U.S. economy and how much a distributor needs to see you to sell before they even give a shit about you. Like, I didn't even think about that. You know, I was this idealistic guy. Like, I want to bring this unknown thing and bring it to America. And this is a brutal machine. That doesn't mean that it can't be beat, but it's a big deal.
Well, there's also, like, in addition to wanting to know case sales, you know, they want to know what kind of kickback you can give them, right? You know, like how many marketing dollars you got.
I mean, it's a whole. I'm learning even this week. I learned more than I knew last week. I mean, it's endless.
It's never
how
ending.
deep it gets. Yeah.
Well, Bill, I hope everyone here who listens to the show is gonna find a bottle. I know it, and I'll connect with you to maybe help you out in a couple places as well. But I just want to thank you for coming on the show, and you know, again, I've been a longtime fan of Faith No More, and this was a real honor for me. What was your favorite? Was it the Michters?
Absolutely was the Michters. However, the Whistlepig, I thought of a song.
Oh, that's right.
Because this is it's a very lively and kind of fun song. The song called God damn it, I don't remember the names or titles of our songs. I can't remember the name of the song. We have these code names for our songs, and once we put the title on the album, I forget what they were called.
Did you write the song? Did you cut it?
I didn't. I wrote part of it. Mike Patton wrote part of it too. The lyric is "Happy Birthday, Fuckers" in it. Gentle Art of Making Enemies. That's the one.
That's a good.
This is the Gentle Art of Making Enemies.
I like it. I like that. Yeah. All right. Well,
man.
Bill,
well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And is there a website people can go to?
You can go to yebiga.com, yebiga.com. Right now, you can get us in California, Illinois, New York, Florida, and Missouri.
Right.
We're just growing. You know, can't grow too fast because it's crazy shit. But we're getting there. Also, I would like to say thanks and shout out to all the Serbian and Balkan folks who know what this is and appreciate where we've gotten so far, because I made a lot of really good friends, and this is why I keep doing it, because it's a fucking blast.
Awesome. Well, hang tight real quick as we kind of wrap the show up. But cool. I just want to say a big shout out to Bill and everyone. If you haven't listened to Faith No More, then you just don't know it. But go listen to all their latest stuff. That's one thing I didn't ask. Is there anything new coming out from the band that we should know about?
I don't know. there could be, but I actually cannot say.
Oh, well, I know how that goes. But in the meantime, go to Yebiga. Did I say that right? Yebiga.
Yebiga, yeah, Yebiga.
Yebiga.com. Learn more about it.
Thanks.
Bill Gould, my guest, everybody. Thank you, and remember, vodka sucks. Cheers. So I'm going to start something new on this podcast. First, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Billy Gould. I think it is amazing to see someone so passionate, no matter what their profession is previously, but he is so passionate about Serbian Brandy, Rakija, and that's something that I, in my career, can count on my hand how many times I have seen that in the store. I've been doing this for 15 years and have not seen Rakija in a store before outside of a place in California. So good luck to Bill. That passion he has for this project is incredible. I love it. Now, something new I'm going to start doing here on the podcast. And it's different than what I do at Bourbon Pursuit. So Bourbon Pursuit, I have this section called Above the Char, where I have people write me and, get me to talk about something that's some kind of trend or some kind of historical element to bourbon. I don't really, I kind of keep that stuff over there at Bourbon Pursuit because that's where it fits, in my opinion. Here, I want to start looking at like how much is a bottle worth, what can I get between such and such amount of money. I don't know what we're going to call this particular section yet, but I know that I want to do this. So you can write me at fredminnick.com with whatever question that you have. If you want it for Above the Char for Bourbon Pursuit, tag it that. If you want it on this podcast, tag it that. But just note that this one is more of a monetary one versus Bourbon Pursuit is more of a historical, trend-oriented subject. So this email comes from Zach Stratton. Hello, I recently started listening to your podcast, and being new to whiskey and the bourbon game, I have enjoyed every episode so far. Well, thank you very much, Zach. I wanted to reach out to find more common and affordable whiskeys and bourbons to me. What would you suggest? I would be looking for something in the 30 to 50 range. Thank you. P.S. I would also like to get one of your podcast stickers. Well, the good news is by the time this thing airs, Zach should have received a sticker, or we have one in pursuit to get to him. So $30 to $50 is a really, really good range for everyday bourbons. Now, Knob Creek fits there. Four Roses Single Barrel fits there. Old Forester 1920, depending on your market, can be there, but you're probably going to actually be on the higher side. It's probably going to be more like $60. But Rare Breed would certainly be in that area. You're going to find a lot of craft whiskeys now, too, that I would start suggesting people take a look at it, like Chattanooga Whiskey, Spirits of French Lick. So there's a lot of brands that you would not necessarily think of that would be fitting in here. Also, things like David Nicholson, Elijah Craig. There's so many things, and they're all very close in quality. A lot of them are very close in quality. But I also dropped a few links in the description just so you have them, and you can take a look at some of the past episodes I have done on this very subject. But, Zach, I appreciate you tuning in. And if you'd like to be like Zach, and hit me up on fredminnick.com, click that contact button. Also, don't forget to ask for a sticker. We send free stickers to anybody who wants them. Matter of fact, feel free to take a picture and show us how you use them. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Click that subscribe button, or, however you're listening to this, podcast. Give us a rating. It helps us with the algorithm overlords. And, just be safe out there, folks. If you're not following me on any of the socials, just hit me up on Fred Minnick. That's just my name, FredMinnick. But that's going to do it, folks. Be safe out there. And remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used for hand sanitizer. Cheers, everybody.